And welcome, folks, to Legal Mullet Podcast. I'm your host, Adam O'Brien, here for episode number 304. We had Flash Gordon, the 1980 film, which stars Sam J. Jones as the quarterback. Of course, who would go on to save the universe with a theme soundtrack. What a film, folks! It is an epic one and one we're really going to enjoy to get back into. But before we do that, folks, we've got to get into this episode. Let's get into it.
All right, lights, camera, action. Now where's the mullet? Where is he? Is he coming in by chopper again?
And now, live from Quinlan's Cantina in the Gold Coast of Australia, it's time again for your dose of action cinema history from the 80s, 90s, and beyond with the Lethal Mullet Podcast. Oh, g'day, mate. How you going?
And that's it, folks. Welcome to episode number 304 of the Little Mullet Podcast here at Quinlan's Cantina, the Gold Coast of Australia. Here coming to you on a Sunday night. It's a wet night. It is raining like crazy, but we can chat about some movies and enjoy a nice cuppa as we go through this amazing film, Flash Gordon, one of the greats, one of my favorites from VHS days, and still today, it's still great. I mean, I listen to the soundtrack regularly. It's a great cast. It's one of those movies that a lot of people say so bad it's good. It's campy, but fun, and it is exactly what you'd expect of the kind of film which came out of one that was going to be a bit more serious at one time, but it is definitely something to check out. We're going to get pretty much straight into the movie today, but a few little things here and there. We'll start with the news.
Now it's time for the latest action news from the cinema and martial arts movies and more, all here on the Lethal Mullet Podcast.
Okay, first one's a bit of news about what's coming up on the FPN network, which is Couch Potato Theatre, the Bloodsport special with, of course, myself and Kevin the Radio Nerd, Reisel, and Kyle Wagner, the two co-founders, and invited me on. And there's, of course, Kyle. It's Frank Dukes there. I couldn't help myself photoshopping into that one. But of course, he's going to show us the Dim Mac with his edited cut of this great show that we did. And it's going to be up on the YouTube channel, plus, of course, all the regular places. The great things about that is they wanted to get my take on Frank Dukes' story. I've got the novel, or the biography, I guess you could say, of Frank Dukes. So we'll be going through that kind of thing, and it is quite a read, folks. If you want to find out about adventures of Frank Dukes and his many records and all that sort of goings on, and Dukes Rue, yeah, well, that's Frank Dukes. But of course, we've also got the Jean-Claude Van Damme story, how it all started from this film, and obviously he's done a few things with Frank Dukes as well. Really Strong and Wrong Bet, better known as AWOL, and what else was it called? He's called something else. Anyway, Lionheart was the other one in the States, I believe. So that's coming. More we'll talk about that next week when that airs, but that's definitely coming out. Other bit of news is, well, it is the anniversary of Highlander. As you can see, this is me, and of course, I can't believe that he's Kevin the Radio Nerd, right? So, folks, that's right. Kevin the Radio Nerd himself in Brisbane. That's right. And it went off like a gunshot. But it's great to see Kevin. Obviously, he's joined us. Well, he's coming to see his wife, who lives in Melbourne, and he stopped off for a couple of days in Brisbane. We went around to the local haunts, the shops, etc. Obviously, Australia, we've got one pretty big distributor that's still doing hard media, and this is the Highlander edition you have to get, folks. If you haven't seen this already, this is Highlander the 4K. There's quite a bit of material on it. That is not on the Blu-ray releases and stuff like that. So if you haven't got 4K, get it and get this edition of Highlander. And while he was there, we actually got to see a bit of Highlander merch. We got to see Kevin check out this, I think it was a French poster of the original Highlander. And I've always liked that Highlander art. It always appeared on the VHS covers and stuff like that back in the 80s on the first film. First and best film. Maybe I should have looked at one film and just the TV show. But Lambert kept coming back as he laughs. I still reckon that film and Fortress are probably his best when it comes down to it. And Lambert was pretty good as Raiden in the original Mortal Kombat. Superseded by James Remar, and obviously somebody new now too, and if you don't know who that is, I want to check out the original reboot that's just come out. It was shot here in Australia. One of the most famous Japanese actors in the world. They're one of the best too. We're now playing Raiden. But yeah, it's great to see Kevin. Obviously, we don't get to see Kevin a lot out here. But when we do, it's always a treat. So big shout out to Kev for coming out and having some lunch, checking out Burger King of all places out here in Australia, which we call Hungry Jacks. There was a copyrighted name of Burger King when they first came out to Australia, but that's all changed ever since. So. Oh, folks, that's putting us back onto, of course, our main here today, which is, of course, the one, the only, yes, that's right, Flash Gordon. So we're going to get pretty much straight into this, folks, and chat about this great film. Flash Gordon is a 1980 film. It's a space opera, but it's also a superhero film. A lot of people forget that the character is a superhero at his most heart. Obviously, it is a character that is often put around the Phantom and a few others, Mandrake the Magician, a few others that were part of a line, kind of like a Justice League, if you like, particularly in the 1980s, which was called Defenders in the Earth. So there's always that. Flash Gordon, obviously directed by Mike Hodges, fantastic British director, and based on the King Features comic series by Alex Raymond. So, along with Sam J. Jones as Flash, we've got Melody Anderson, Ornella Muti. We've also got Sydow, the amazing Topol. We've also got Timothy Dalton, Mary Angela Milano, Brian Blessed, and Peter Wingard as well. And it really is interesting. And Flash simply is a quarterback that gets stuck on another planet with Dale Arden and Hans Zarkoff as they unite to go against basically Mongo and, of course, Ming the Merciless, who's just, again, pretty much the poster child of science fiction bad guys. Ming was somebody that was being modeled off of, I don't know how many emperors in different science fiction that are out there. And particularly the character Ming, when it's played by such a damn talented actor, somebody that really knows how to put out an amazing performance. Maxwell Sydow is, really at home in this role. Is able to pump out such an amazing performance, and it's one that really I think elevates the work too, because he gives it a grounding, a seriousness, but there's kind of a twinkle in his eye when that's going around it too, and that's what's really about the other cast members here. Sam J. Jones, who's I think an interesting guy who didn't quite take off with this film. It should have. This should have been the starring vehicle. But for whatever reason, he didn't get to even do the media round when they were promoting this film. And from there, he's sort of had a patchy theatrical and TV career, some would expect. Obviously, Highwayman, I'm a huge fan of that he did in the mid to late 80s, which is fantastic. Huge shit out here. You can actually find that on, I do believe it's on YouTube. We have talked about that on the show before, so go and check that out. And obviously, too, he's actually a security guard. He's worked for securities and major celebrities, etc. So he's an actual real tough guy. So do not mess with the man who's saved every one of us. And we've got Poland here, who's great. As Zarkov, he gives us reality. That he, in some ways, he is probably the main hero. He's trying to actually save Earth and do it in a certain way that would limit, obviously, the destruction of the planet and all that sort of thing too. I think he's actually fantastic in this too. Obviously, we've got Brian Blessed doing Brian Blessed does, and big, huge theatrical characters, and big beard, and Gordon's alive. He's got all that. So it's almost up there with the lines of Sean Connery. Is how much this is really repeated and stuff like that too. And it is. It's an epic when it comes down to it too. And then obviously what the theatrical look of this too is, it's different. That these huge swarming galaxies, stars, what do you call it, which is, in a nebula like sort of formation in this, which is different. It's not your Star Wars, if you like. And that's one thing they were trying not to do, which we'll get into now. So the producer, Dale Arden, and obviously worked on some other stuff like Barbarella and Danger Diabolic, and even George Lucas, was offering to do it, but Lucas was actually said no to it in this too. Obviously, wouldn't have got Star Wars had that not happened. It's funny that George did the same with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and realised that they didn't want him for that too. So he then went and did Willow. So in some ways, it's good that he didn't do those. Otherwise, we would get those things out too. So we also had at one stage there was different versions that were going to be going through, and eventually, obviously, it changed down the line. It was a different, a more serious, if anything, look of Flash Gordon too. So it wasn't the same sort of style of film, I guess, when they were going down to it originally. So they had a version that was going to be done by Federico Fellini, and then Gilliani's hired also director Nicholas Rogue and entered the Dragon Rider Michael Allen to develop the film back in '77. But then that's when Hodges came along and basically worked on it from there. It was filmed in Britain and on several sound stages of both Austria and Shepperton Studios, and had that sort of campy, similar style to Batman in some ways. And if you look at the color and stuff that was used, very much in that sort of line. As we are talking about before, it's the backdrops. They're so vibrant, but you get used to it. I think that's the one thing. I didn't think any different of it when I watched it as a kid too, which is interesting too. Obviously, too, there's quite a bit involved in this film. The way things were going and how they went around. Obviously, Sam J. Jones left the film prior to the end of principal photography. This is where his lines are actually dubbed over by another actor by the name of Peter Marinka. And with Jones' departure from the project and his career, would lead obviously to different directions too. And you can actually see it in the documentary Life After Flash. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. So don't check that out too. Now the other one is to, of course, Queen, involved in their first major soundtrack in this film. It is an interesting one. The fact that it's got all the sound bites from particularly from Clytus and Ming the Merciless at the start. And Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything do you have for me today? All that sort of stuff. It's all in there, and that's what I love about this the film. It's got that, but the music's just as killer as the film itself. It really is. Obviously the band did a fantastic job on this, and even better, I think, in regards to Highlander. I love that soundtrack as well. Even though they never actually released the official soundtrack to it, which is interesting. So the plot, basically, Emperor Ming the Merciless is really bored and decides to destroy Earth. He starts it by using natural disasters first with his two IC in charge, Clytus. From here, we have Gregory Gordon, better known as Flash, who's going on a plane with a travel agent by the name of Dale Arden. Mid-flight, their ship crash lands into the garden of Dr. Hans Zarkoff. Zarkoff believes that these disasters are coming from aliens that are trying to destroy us, and the moon's being pushed out of orbit with this too. From here, Zarkov lures both Flash and Dale on board his rocket ship that he's got and flies them to Mongo. This is where they're captured by Ming's troops. And this is a really great thing. Yeah, there is a plot to this that is more like a Saturday serial. It's really good. After looking at the trio, Ming here is then, of course, starting to fall in love with Dale. And from here, Flash is actually executed after a small game of football, shall we say. And this is where Princess Aurora saves Flash, who's actually Ming's daughter, and she falls in love with him at first sight. From there, Zarkov is then brainwashed by Clytus. And from here, Flash is taken to the land of Arborea, which is where Prince Barin lives, played by 007 himself, Timothy Dalton. And it's really well done here. This is a great little scene, which is very Star Wars. I've always thought the Arborea scenes were fantastic. the whole putting your hand into the tree and not getting stung, all that sort of stuff. It also shows Flash is quite a smart guy. You know, he's using it against somebody that doesn't really see that there's an issue. So, which is quite, you know, I think when it gets down to it, that's something that is not played off in other parts of the film. So, you know, he's a tactician, you know, and that's what's really good about the character in this too. Obviously, from there, Barin follows him as he escapes, and they are captured by the Hawkmen later. From here, Aura is also taken prisoner, and Clytus and the general Kala for treason are tortured. From here, torture her. Yeah, the torture scenes are interesting, obviously by both Clytus and General Kala. Kala's probably the real brute in this. You know, she's like a Gestapo officer or something like that. You know, she's really into the sick nature of it too. But some of these scenes, and particularly with you know, later on as Zarkoff is being brainwashed, you know, we get to see that his mind is, you know, tougher than what they can put him through his, you know, remembering childhood and the Beatles, all that sort of stuff. It's really fantastic. From here, obviously Ming prepares to basically wed Dale. It's going to be his new wife. Flash and Barin then are taken to Sky City. This is where Flash and Dale are briefly reunited. From here, Flash is forced to fight Barin to the death, a match with bullets. And it's interesting. It's one of the best scenes, and I still get, you know, feelings and emotions about the scene itself because it shows true heroism. Where we've got Flash himself just about to give himself away. He's like, "If you kill me, please, you know, promise me that you'll team up with obviously the Hawkmen and, you know, find a way through." And this is the interesting part too, is that through then him sort of turn the tables, and then Baron's left to die, but he won't let him die. He saves his life. This is where Baron sees true humanity, which is something they haven't seen before, something that's been lacking in Ming's universe, which basically Mongo and all that. Never really seen the self-sacrifice of what real humanity does. You know, there's stuff obviously, you know, with the likes of Ming puts the people through, and it really makes things different. From here, obviously, the place is left to go, and everyone is taken away as the approach of Clytus. Clytus gets killed, and of course, they take off. From here, Flash is then contacted, you know, by Ming, and he says to stay where he is. And this is where Ming comes down, has a chat to him, and basically tries to bribe him. You know, this scene. Um, from here, obviously, he takes off and leads the Sky City to explode. The great scene here is that we get to see, of course, the sky bike or jet bike, whatever you want to call it, to this great little sled. And it's a great scene. From here, Flash contacts Vulcan saying that there's a plot to attack Mingo City. The Defender City General Carl dispatches the war rocket Ajax, and this is where obviously we see the huge armada of Hawkmen in the sky. Now, this is true science fiction, folks. You know, you can't get past it. So, obviously, here with that too, we have it's the ticking clock, if you like, as the ships are coming in, and this is where Barin and Zarkoff enter the control room inside the place and confront Carla, and this is where Barin shoots her and kills her. And that scene with all the different vines coming off and all the minions dying too. From here, after throwing off everything and attacking Ming's guards, Banner also managed to deactivate the lightning field before Ajax comes in to hit it. And Flash flies the rocket ship into the wedding hall and impales Ming right with the point of it. And from here, Flash offers to spare his life if he stops attacking Earth. Ming refuses and attempts to use his ring, but it falters and nothing happens. He then aims the ring at himself, seemingly killing himself. From here, Barin and Aura obviously become the new leaders in Ming's palace and in his place. And Barin names Vulcan the general of their armies. Flash, Dale, and Zarkoff think about returning to Earth, but Zarkoff says he does not know how they will get back, but they will try. So you know that there's going to be more adventures of this great, you know, teaming up with people, and you know, that's what I was, you know, I always thought we're going to get more of this, you know, great story. And sadly, we didn't. This is a one-off, if you like. There are other Flash Gordons out there, and there's a TV series done in Canada in mid 2000s, but nothing on this part. That was pretty low budget in comparison to the theatrical quarter outings that they did in this too. But it really is an interesting one too. One of the big stars in this too, I think. We look at it. We've got Robbie Coltrane, who's somebody you don't even think he's there, but he's there. We've also got Kenny Baker as one of the dwarfs. And we've got, of course, the amazing Deep Roy as Fellini. It's his Princess Aura's pet. We've also got who else we got here? We've got as well the parts John Morton as well. Philip Stone plays Zogi, the High Priest. John Osborne as the Arborean Priest. Richard O'Brien, folks, as Franco, and obviously he's the one that tries to get Flash out of the pit, but at the end of the day, is actually working for the Arborean as well too. Yeah, so it's a really good cast, and obviously it's a film which since the 1960s, Dino had really tried to get a lot of those sorts of productions together. And I think with George Lucas's interest in the 1970s, it just sort of pushed it even more so. A lot of the casting is coming down to St. Jones. This is where he was cast by De Laurentiis after his mother-in-law saw the actor in an episode of The Dating Game. And Jones had only ever acted in a romantic comedy called 10 in 1979. And he beat out both Kurt Russell and Arnold Schwarzenegger as well. And the only sort of background and action and stuff that he had was he basically done a little bit of running and done some gym and stuff like that. And obviously some taekwondo as well. So Dale Haddon was originally going to be playing Dale Arden, but of course Melody Anderson was replaced her after she showed up looking emaciated after that too. The footage itself, prison photography was obviously in Shepperton Studios in the United Kingdom and Elstree Studios. They had a repurposed aircraft hangar in Weybridge as well, Weybridge, sorry. And the airfield scenes it was shot in Broadford airfield in Skye, which is in Scotland. For the Hawkman scene, the 60 feet high and 100 feet high blue screen was built. And this is where they use screen and these clusters of quartz halogen lights to give that sort of light background too. And we also used, obviously, optical compositing processing that's created by visual effects expert Frank Vanderveer, and cost pretty much half of the effects budget. The film itself was premiered as having a budget of $35 million. However, it was noted more reliable suggested it was around $20 million, which they said was still a lot of outlay money for the sort of money they had at the time. Post-production, obviously, St. Jones left early, so he had disagreements with Dale Arden of some kind and departed prior to post-production. This obviously resulted in some changes, and that's where the Canadian-British actor Peter Marinka came in and dubbed the lines. And again, a lot of people didn't know that for years. I mean, I always thought that was Sam's voice until I heard it later on other productions like Highwayman, but it's not too far removed from his voice. And like I just said, the Marinka only dubbed about 5 or 10 minutes of dialogue, he says, that too. So whether that's, just somebody that's coming in and so they've used the majority of Sam's dialogue, and then I think the end of it, that adds sort of come into play where he's just getting the tone of Sam's voice back too. So there's those sorts of angles to look at as well. So, whatever they do with the production, it sounds great. This is a film which holds up with its not only the dialogue, but obviously the foley they did on it too. I think it's fantastic. So the soundtrack obviously was composed and performed by rock band Queen. Flash Gordon was the obviously one of the first ones that probably did this. I'd say, I can't imagine any other bands that would sort of be involved like Queen have when it comes down to the sort of style that we have here too. Obviously we've got the Who. Had done, I think it was Tommy in 1975 as well. And so there's parts like that too. There's also Howard Blake composed some orchestral score pieces as well. So the film was released in North America via Universal Studios. Universal basically did the domestic theatrical and home video rights as well. And Studio Canal did pretty much the film's UK distribution as well. Out here, it's been Actually, I think it's a bit of a mix. We've had it out by MGM here in Australia, as well as a few others. But Studio Canal, since the 2000s, are pretty much the DVD releases have always had that sort of distribution as well. So basically, this film is an interesting one when it comes down to its box office too. It's a movie that theatrically probably should have done a lot higher than it did, and it wasn't a rip-roaring success. I think a lot of it, what it came down to later on, is it made roughly about what it cost. So it broke even, if you like. So with a budget estimated between 20 to 27 million, it made 27.1 million by UK and US. The mass probably made more worldwide since, I'd say. So the critical reception is interesting on this one too. So it's for overall positive reviews. This is like a rock concert space opera. I've always thought that. It holds an 83% approval rating, and that's on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's an interesting one too. Like if you look at some of the reviews, so New Yorker's Pauline Kael described Flash Gordon as having some of the knowing, pleasurable giddiness of the fast-moving Bonds. The director Mike Hodges gets right into comic strip sensibility and pacing, and that's what it feels like. It feels like Alice Raymond's cartoon come to life in some way. Todd McCarthy of Variety called it a pretty dumb sci-fi bit. Lacks the wit and verve of Superman, however, thought it would be a good holiday moneymaker and that audiences might find the badness of justice that was part of the fun of the film. It's not the greatest performance in the world, but he plays it pretty well. I personally too. So for the most part, the reviews are pretty damn good, and it's a shame that it hasn't sort of taken over since. The film is definitely a cult film. Edgar Wright used the film as one of the visual influences for Scott Pilgrim when he made that. Not a film I was familiar with. I know that Kevin and Kyle were huge fans of that film too. So obviously Seth MacFarlane with Ted, huge in that too. Leslie's performance as Prince Bolton as well. The whole Gorgeous Alive, that whole thing's been going for years as well too. And there's been different things since which have really taken off. Obviously, there's a lot of merch since as well, if you go and check out too. So with home video, obviously came out DMX and MCA. Basically, that was 1981, so the original VHS of that film. And I actually remember the art, which I posted on the Facebook page. It is fantastic. Go and check it out. It is great. And obviously too, there's been different versions, Blu-rays, etc. too, and it's been multi editions as well. So where's the film get on, of course, show here? It gets a 5 out of 5. This is rock solid entertainment, and as the man says, Gordon's alive. That was a bit too Sean Connery, wasn't it? Gordon's alive. Sure is. 5 out of 5 on the Halifax scale. Go and check it out. If you haven't got the new 4K edition, check it out. This is fantastic. Episode number 304, folks. Here, of course, at the one and only Just Space We Are, of course. Legal Mullet. You can check us out on fpnet.podbean.com at Legal Mullet. And all socials at the Legal Mullet. And we'll catch you next time with we've got the sleep coming. Joe Kilman's the plate. We've also got Toy Soldiers coming along with of course. What else, mate? And taking on Terrace and high school. All that and more. Come on, the only. Legal Mullet.